Here to discuss the imminent departure of Eric Holder is the Senior Legal Fellow for the Heritage Foundation and co-author of the book, Obama's Enforcer, Eric Holder's Justice Department. It would be the one and only Hans van Spakovsky. Hans, it's so good to have you back here on America's Forum. So,
Thanks, JD.
we say, here's your hat, what's your hurry to Eric Holder. What's next? I guess we have to stop and take a look at the impact of Holder, for better or more likely for worse, as Attorney General of the United States.
Well, you know, he said he had mixed emotions about leaving. I don't have any mixed emotions. This is good for the American people. It's good for anyone who actually believes in the rule of law and the impartial administration of the justice system, because that is something that Eric Holder clearly did not believe in.
There are so many different cases, so many different scandals that we could take the rest of this program to talk about it. But one in particular, Fast and Furious, the scandal where he withheld information, where the president put down the curtain of executive privilege. Now there's a court ruling saying, hey, Justice Department, come across with some of these documents. Do you think that's why Holder is getting out right now?
No, you know, look, he's been defiant all along, and I suspect the Justice Department will continue to be defiant. No, I think he's leaving probably because of the fact that he's been there 6 years and he's tired. But the reason he's leaving now is because Democrats are afraid they may lose the Senate. If they do, the only chance to try to get somebody through that the president wants to replace him is in the lame duck session in December, when Harry Reid could force someone through, even if they are as bad as Eric Holder.
Well, being as bad from our particular point of view, as bad as Eric Holder, do you expect a Holder clone to be the next Attorney General to succeed him?
Yeah, yes, I do. And I think we could take as a good example, look, what happened with the IRS. Remember, the IRS scandal, they had to get a new head of the IRS. The man they got, Koskinen, is somebody who was a big donor to the president, and he basically has done everything he can to prevent information coming out about what the IRS was doing. And I expect the same thing from a new Attorney General, a replacement, someone who will basically show the same defiance that Holder has and help the president continue to bend, break, and ignore the law.
Hans, earlier in this program, we had Arizona Congressman Paul Gosar on with us, and he said it was his conjecture that he believed that President Obama would do kind of more of that EEOC approach to hiring the next Attorney General. So Congressman Gosar says he believes it will be a woman. Do you share that opinion? Or, well, let's name some names. Who do you think is going to end up there?
You know, I really don't know, because it's very difficult to predict this particular White House. But as you know, they've used a quota system for just about everything. In fact, one of the things the Attorney General has been doing for the past 6 years is trying to force American businesses and colleges to put in quota systems. So, yeah, this president has not yet had a woman as the Attorney General. So I suspect women candidates right now probably lead the pack.
As you mentioned, quotas in so many different areas of American life, much has been made. It sounds as if the Justice Department and the outgoing Attorney General was really big on the notion almost of sentencing quotas in terms of who serves prison time. So we're going to get someone in the realm of that, quote, social justice model, looking for a type of cultural vengeance.
Oh, yeah. And look, we should all realize that Eric Holder shared the same progressive utopia vision that President Obama does. That's why they've gotten along so well. That's why he's lasted so long. And he's been using his power at the Justice Department not to enforce the law, not to administer justice, but to use the power of the law to try to put in place that progressive utopia that the president and liberals all want.
Yeah, it's interesting they use the term progressive utopia. For a lot of it seems to be a hell on earth, especially when they talk about Al Sharpton being part of the search committee, Al Sharpton being one of the stakeholders in this, Al Sharpton advising the president on who to pick. You've heard that talk. What do you make of Sharpton saying he's going to be playing a role in this?
Well, I don't doubt that's probably true. Look, he's been to the White House on numerous occasions. When he had his big convention in New York City just a couple of months ago, two of his main speakers were the president and Eric Holder. I mean, this racial charlatan is somebody that the Attorney General basically looked to for advice. I mean, that in itself is just shocking.
Well, shocking, but sadly not surprising when we take a look at this White House and this Justice Department. Now, to the mechanics of what continues there on Capitol Hill. Mr. Holder has been found in contempt. He's leaving, but as we understand, the contempt citation remains in place. Did Mr. Holder think by becoming a private citizen that might all go away?
No, as a lawyer, I think he understands that that won't go all away, that the House of Representatives will continue to pursue its lawsuit and its claim that all these documents have been improperly withheld. You know, one thing about being a private citizen is it's going to be a lot tougher for him to stand up to subpoenas asking for his testimony in front of Congress. He might become a permanent witness.
So now this is something that really bears amplification. By leaving, Eric Holder puts himself in what we might call not exactly legal jeopardy, but virtually ensures increased scrutiny as a private citizen.
Yeah, because I think it's easier for congressional committees that want to examine what he did to go after him and force him to come in. Now, I have no doubt the Justice Department will be there trying to prevent that from happening, but they're going to have a tougher road when he's a private citizen.
Well, yeah, it almost seems to me, as you mentioned this, you can see the next Attorney General or perhaps an acting Attorney General. And, well, let me go to this next. No matter what happens, just the day-to-day functions of DOJ, there's going to be an acting Attorney General for a period of time. You imagine that to be the case?
Oh, yeah, it will for sure happen that way.
So with that in mind, the acting Attorney General and perhaps the next Attorney General may just have to appoint an Eric Holder division, essentially to try and continue to block the Congress from its continued scrutiny of Holder?
Well, they already have a division like that because, as you know, they've been fighting this contempt charge and all the other problems that he's had. So they may just have to expand that division a little bit.
What do you make, Hans? You've been in Washington for a while. I served there, but I can never really figure the place out. The hosannas coming from the mainstream press about the achievements of Eric Holder as Attorney General and almost a type of amnesia or a begrudging mention of the veritable cavalcade of scandals and the arrogance and basically the disregard this Attorney General has for the rule of law.
Well, look, the mainstream media, unfortunately, has not given him the scrutiny that he should. Why? Well, because he's a liberal. He's a part of the administration. Look, I can guarantee you that if any Republican Attorney General had committed even a fraction of the actions that this Attorney General had, they would have been driven out of office years ago. Instead, they want to ignore all that, even the way he went after the press, which you would think would get the press upset in the leak investigations of classified information, you know, going after the Associated Press, going after James Rosen at Fox. Journalists ought to be upset about that, but no, instead, what a great guy he was.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the Fourth Estate essentially become Orwellian Ministry of Truth or something like that from 1984. Hans, right. Before we part company, you sure you don't want to venture a prediction on who's going to be the next AG?
Well, I'll tell you, the safest person that they could pick and probably get through would be the current Solicitor General, Donald Verrilli. You know, he's not as controversial as many of the other people that have been talked about in the press. Now, of course, he hasn't had a very good record before the Supreme Court. In fact, he's lost. many cases that the government has pushed forward. But he's probably a little more bland than the other people that they're talking about.
Okay, so it could be time for a bland attorney general, maybe restoring justice, Lady Justice, to blind, but it sure didn't happen on this AG's watch. Hans van Spakovsky, we thank you very much for your time this morning, Skyping in from the Heritage Foundation in Washington. So, you heard what Hans had to say. What's your take? Why don't you tweet me your comments on Eric Holder at Newsmax TV, hashtag America's Forum. And America's Forum will be right back following this timeout.